I think it'll start once you hit the game.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Village of Carpentersville regular board meeting, April 21st, 2026 at 6 p.m. Call roll, please.
Trustee Abbott?
Here.
Trustee Frost?
Present.
Trustee Garcia?
Here.
Trustee Gupta?
Yep.
Trustee Malone?
Here.
Trustee Maniscalco?
Here.
Mrs. Skillman?
Here, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have a few proclamations tonight. And you want to, Trustee Maniscalco, you want to read one for us,
Sure.
please?
Village of Carpentersville Proclamation for Earth Month, which is April 2026. Whereas the first Earth Day was enacted in 1970 and engaged over 20 million Americans to advocate for a cleaner environment. And whereas the 2026 theme for Earth Day is Our Power, Our Planet, a fundamental truth. Environmental progress doesn't depend on any single administration or election. It is sustained by daily actions of communities, educators, workers, and families protecting where they live and work. And whereas our actions while meeting the needs of the present must not compromise the needs of future generations and must encourage collective responsibility for our natural environment. And whereas each of us locally and globally is affected by ever worsening environmental degradation, global health issues, climate change, food and water insecurities, and which are becoming more critical each year. And whereas the Village of Carpentersville is committed to informed decision-making within all departments to adopt best practices toward a greener and more sustainable future that balances our natural and built environments. And whereas Earth Day and its extension Earth Month is an annual global event promoting a renewed focus on the constant need for environmental awareness, strong sustainability actions, and the implementation of sound stewardship efforts. And whereas Earth Month offers time for all citizens, businesses, institutions, and organizations to further their environmental awareness and to increase their environmental actions, sustainability, programs, and initiatives.
Thank you.
Gonna read the
Now, therefore, I, John Skillman, Village President of Carpentersville, do hereby proclaim April 2026 as Earth Month in Carpentersville and encourage all residents, businesses, institutions, and organizations to participate in action-oriented activities to protect and enhance the environment and our local ecology and to celebrate the earth. Thank you. Thank you, Trustee Maniscalco. Okay. Oh, Arbor Day. First of all, Arbor Day, we are celebrating on Monday, I believe, in Carpentersville at 9 a.m.
It's the celebrate or the event itself is 10:30.
Can you send it out to us, please? A
I
reminder.
certainly will.
on Monday, April 27th, at the south corner of Carpenter Park.
Yeah.
And the celebrations with Parkview Elementary.
So if you guys are available, swing by. Hopefully the weather will be nice. If not, we might cancel that.
Dress
So,
appropriately.
yeah. So, okay. Arbor Day, April 24th, 2026. Whereas in 1872, Nebraska Board of Agriculture established a special day to be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas a holiday called Arbor Day was the first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world. Whereas trees can be a solution to combating climate change, to reducing erosion of our precious topsoil and wind by wind, water, and cutting heating and cooling costs, moderating the temperature, cleaning the air, producing life-giving oxygen, and providing habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource for giving us paper, wood, for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our village increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now, there, I, John Skillman, President of the Village of Carpentersville, do hereby proclaim Friday, the 24th of April, 2026 is Arbor Day. Thank you. Okay, Global Love Day is our next proclamation. May 1st, 2026 is Global Love Day. Whereas the Love Foundation Incorporated, nonprofit organization, has announced Global Love Day to facilitate in establishing love and peace on our planet. And whereas Global Love Day will establish a worldwide focus towards unconditional loving each other as we love ourselves. And whereas we are one humanity on this planet, and whereas all life is interconnected and interdependent. Interdependent, yes. And whereas we all share in the universal bond of love, and whereas love begins as a self-acceptance and forgiveness, and whereas with respect and compassion, we embrace diversity, and whereas together we make a difference through love, and whereas the Love Foundation Incorporated invites mankind to declare May 1st, 2026 as Global Love Day of forgiveness and unconditional love. Global Love Day will act as a model for all of us to follow each and every day. Now, therefore, I, John Skillman, Village President of Carpentersville, hereby dedicate and proclaim May 1st, 2026 as Global Love Day. Thank you. Okay. Did we have the other one?
No, sir.
Okay. No one's here for that. Okay. All right. So item number 5, appointments, confirmation, administration. We have none. Public comment? We have none tonight. We're moving right to the consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless the trustee so requests. In that event, the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered its normal sequence on the agenda.
I would like to motion the consent agenda as presented, item A through K.
I'll second it.
A motion by trustee Garcia, a second by trustee Gupta. Roll call, please.
Trustee Garcia,
Yes.
Yes.
trustee Malone,
Yes.
Falco,
Yes.
Abbott. Trustee Frost.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Ross,
Yes.
President Skillman.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. All right, we have no old business tonight. New business, approval of an ordinance providing the issuance of a general bond refunding series 2026A of the Village of Carpentersville, Kane County, Illinois, in the aggregate principal amount not to exceed $5 million. Right? Is that correct, that number?
Yes, sir.
Providing for the levy and collection of direct annual tax sufficient for the payment and principal of the interest on said bonds.
All right, I'll take
Mr.
that.
Mason, Director Mason, yes.
Good evening, President Skellman, members of the board. So this is an item that staff has been coordinating with our financial advisor at the Village, Spear Financial, the last couple months. Interest rates, just to cut to the short, have changed considerably in the last 8 weeks. So what was identified as a potential savings to refund the 2014 general obligation bond series that are outstanding. What was identified as a savings of upwards of $200,000 just a few weeks ago is now less than $100,000 just based on the interest rates increasing pretty significantly in large part due to the conflict in the Middle East. So this bond ordinance that's before you tonight is essentially to permit and authorize village staff and the village to consider and still pursue a refunding of the bonds, the 2014 series, which this ordinance does not have an expiration date or a date when it will expire in terms of its validity. So this just gives us the ability should the interest rate market be more favorable, hopefully in the next few weeks again, that we can continue with a refunding of that bonds series, which has 8 years left remaining. So approval of this bond ordinance does not come at a cost to the village. It simply would allow staff to move forward with the refunding of those bonds should the interest rate environment hopefully improve in the next few weeks.
Okay, thank you. Anybody questions, comments for the director? No, thank you. Motion?
A motion to approve new business item A.
I'll second.
Motion by trustee Malone, second by trustee Abbott. Roll call, please.
Trustee Gupta,
Yes.
trustee Malone,
Yes.
trustee Maniscalco,
Yes.
trustee Abbott,
Yes.
trustee Frost,
Yes. Yes.
and Spelman.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. Item B, approval of resolution withdrawing the Village of Carpentersville from the Quadcom Public Safety Communication System and the Quadcom Joint Emergency Telephone Systems Board.
All right. I'd like to make a motion for that, item B, unless there's going to be
We have one quick discussion.
okay.
Okay, yeah, just briefly,
Go ahead.
thank you, President Skillman and Board of Trustees. This item, there was an extensive board report that I'm not going to read back into the record. It's there. And I know that everyone here has additional lines of communication regarding this issue, which I'm not going to belabor unless there's additional questions that anyone wants to discuss. Just to summarize our position, is that this notice of withdrawal from Quadcom presents an opportunity for our village to move to a better staffed and technologically up-to-date dispatch operation, which already overlaps some of our emergency service jurisdiction. This is about ensuring quality dispatch operations first and foremost, and about secondarily ensuring financial sustainability. The first point is that if we were to proceed with, for example, the CCOM proposal, we would immediately be going to an agency almost triple the size of the Quadcom population base, with more than double the dispatchers and several more supervisors and administrative staff, using state-of-the-art dispatch stations and technology, with room to expand and include the entirety of the existing Quadcom operation, which is something I will mention as I do see that Chris is here from Quadcom. Our intention this entire time would have been to move with all the other agencies and to also ensure that everybody in the Quadcom operation would have a job to go to with CCOM. On the second point, the price escalations in Quadcom due to its relatively small size can only be expected to increase year after year to maintain a semblance of market competitiveness with its staff and technology. 3 months ago, we were looking at a proposed rate increase of 32.5% this coming fiscal year, with Quadcom that was reduced to 10%, but 10% still being substantially a substantially high single-year cost increase that can only be anticipated to recur every year going forward. From an apples-to-apples standpoint, we're talking about projected annualized savings for the first 5 years, averaging $400,000 or a little more a year by switching to CCOM from Quadcom. We are required to give a 12-month notice. This resolution specifically authorizes the notice of withdrawal to be submitted by the end of this month, which is significant because this is the end of the fiscal year, so that we would not be bound to anything in future fiscal years after the 2026-27 year. Thank you, President Skillman and Board.
Anybody have anything? Questions? We have a motion on.
I
table,
do
right?
have a question.
Yes, sir. Trustee Frost.
The 32%, I find it disturbing at 32.58% to the Village of Carpentersville. And then all of a sudden it come down to 10%. That's quite a drop. Even though we've been footing the bill for the last 20 years. that's why my vote will be a yes for this, to leave Quadcom and move on and continue to move this village forward in a way that that our residents can prosper from it. And also I think it's just a good move for the village of Carpentersville just to move on. Thank you.
If I may, President Skillman, it's also very important to let the public know that we almost carry half of the bill in this Quadcom situation. $400,000 a year savings. It's a lot of money. We can buy a lot of stuff or save a lot of money with just 400,000, and that's in the first year. I would like to motion, not to motion, but to second Trustee Frost's motion.
Okay, we have a motion to approve, correct, Trustee Frost?
I'd like to make a motion to approve item B, the
New business.
leaving of the Quadcom in the new business section of our agenda.
Okay, we have a motion by Trustee Frost, second by Trustee Garcia. A roll call, please.
Trustee Malone?
Yes.
Trustee Maniscalco?
Yes.
Trustee Abbott?
Yes. Yes.
Rita?
Yes.
Trustee Gupta?
Yes.
President Skillman?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. Manager Stewart.
Thank you again, President Skillman Board. First of all, shout out to our MAP 378 representatives here. We did, with the consent agenda this evening, get the successor contract approved. So congratulations, gentlemen. It was very nice working with you on this, and you stood your ground and scared us a little bit, but I think we came to a good result. So thanks for being here, and glad we were able to finalize that. As Trustee Maniscalco mentioned, the Arbor Day details, I'll also mention that next Monday at 6 p.m. is the Audit and Finance Committee meeting. It's at the Public Works Training Room. We're going to have an overview of the capital improvement plan that's being developed, and hoping that that's going to be very informative come August and the fiscal year 27 budget timeframe. We're also preparing the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency low-interest loan submissions for both water and wastewater capital projects that we would be receiving in 2027, at least the projects that are successful, but most likely those projects that would be funded through the loan would not actually be constructed till 2028, just due to the cycle of the approval and notification and our budgetary process. So, but that's underway, and we'll go over that next week. Also, summary of the refunding of that 2014 GO bond that Assistant Manager Mason just talked about, as well as the anticipated parameters of a new bond issuance for the Village Hall and Police Station renovation and expansion project will be the topics of discussion. Maybe most importantly, this Thursday, April 23rd, President Skillman is being sworn in as the next president of the Metro West Council of Governments for the coming year. So
That was for the Pickle House.
For real?
yeah,
Oh, it's at the Pickle House.
For
Yeah,
real?
yeah.
Thursday?
Thursday, yes.
Yeah, if any, I know they're very tight parameters on the registration with the Metro West, but if anybody might have an interest, let me know and we'll see what we can do to get anyone included there. But obviously, it's a big deal. I don't know the last time that Carpentersville would have represented Metro West as its president. I think this is the first time ever. So big deal. Saturday, May 2nd, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. is Cinco de Mayo at Carpenter Park. While not a village event, we have been supporting several aspects of it to help make it successful. It's really geared for all ages. It includes 7 live bands, a lot of food, a small farm or El Ranchito with baby goats and calves, and some liquid refreshment as well. Thursday, May 7th, 5:30 to 7:30 is the National Night of Prayer, which will be here, outside, or in the boardroom, weather dependent. Development updates: Bodoo Bridal Boutique and Alterations has opened on Huntley Road near Randall Road in the strip center that has Po Saigon, right next door to, or shopping center adjacent to where some of us were for the other chamber event the other week. We are nearing completion of both the Seven Brew construction as well as the Right In, Right Out project. We're awaiting the grand opening date from Seven Brew, but anticipate it will be in the coming weeks, hoping it's May, but we'll update you once we have that finalized. Riverfront Park continues to go under construction with the civil site work. Utility lines are what are being prioritized before the more permanent groundwork and landscaping's done. Thanks again to the Rotary. I know some of our board are members for the donation towards the park benches. Carpenter Boulevard project begins tomorrow. LWB Singer project is underway and will be ongoing for a while, but that's going to be a really nice expansion. And there was an inquiry about the bike path. There will be a bike path that basically runs from the McDonald's along the corridor. So hopefully making transportation a little easier for people outside of having to drive a car. So finally, the Robin Road retaining wall project is actually nearing completion. Most of the wall itself is being poured this week, so we look forward to that being done in the coming weeks. Other news, we know that we're dealing with the broadband companies doing installations. Our engineering crew is being very diligent in identifying ground restoration work that is not up to par, and is communicating that at this point with I3 in particular, but is also monitoring the MetroNet projects. And we will be holding permits for those companies until prior areas are sufficiently restored for our residents. So that's ongoing, and we are trying to be very vigilant about concerns neighbors or our residents have about their lawns being ripped up, right? They should be doing professional restoration work before they leave the site. Finance and the water department are in the process of notifying about 150 households of the need to provide us access to replace the water meter transponder endpoints so that accurate reads are reported. This has been more or less an ongoing process to get residents off of estimated reads so that billing is accurate. And we've emphasized, and Assistant Manager Mason has emphasized that we want to prioritize this because it just creates problems to not have accurate water meter readings. So with that, the main event is Assistant Manager Sitchan and also our HR Director is going to be presenting our compensation philosophy and salary structure.
Okay.
Good evening, President Skillman and members of the Board of Trustees. Thank you for the opportunity to update you this evening on a project that the HR department, as well as other members of the leadership team, have been working on for several months, which is our compensation philosophy and a salary structure that will be presented. It's actually before you on the dais. So I will go into it in more depth later in the presentation. But to start, in 2022, when the NIU Center for Governmental Studies facilitated the village's strategic planning process, compensation strategy was identified as an organizational priority when a need emerged to strengthen staffing strategies related to recruitment, retention, and competitive compensation. Focus groups highlighted that there had historically been a reactive approach to compensation, particularly for non-represented employees. Without a formal compensation philosophy or salary structure in place, pay decisions were often made as a response to turnover or internal inequities that were identified. On the other hand, represented employees negotiate wages pretty regularly on a 3-year cycle through union agreements. The goal is to shift from a reactive approach towards a more strategic and forward-looking one. Compensation strategy is essential to effectively recruit and retain employees, both which directly impact the quality of services that we provide to the community. Now that both IMRF and Article 3 and 4 pension systems are reciprocal, employees can transfer their service credit between employers. We've been seeing a lot of that specifically with our public safety, a little less so on the fire side, but a lot in the last several years from police. While we have a highly capable workforce and strong training programs in place, there have been times we've operated as a training ground when we experience a turnover due to lack of competitive compensation, which has significant financial and operational consequences. Beyond recruitment and retention, having a defined compensation philosophy provides for several benefits. Not only will it ensure equity in pay administration, it will also support responsible financial planning by enabling more accurate budgeting for one of the village's largest expenditures. Transparency in this process is important not only to provide better clarity and understanding to employees, but also to give external stakeholders visibility into the village's compensation philosophy. The proposed salary schedule establishes a framework of position classifications and pay ranges reflective of the comparable market. The structure allows employees to understand their earning potential and visualize opportunities for career growth, while also maintaining internal equity and appropriate separation between positions to prevent salary compression. In many ways, it functions similar to union pay schedules. Historically, the village has not had a formal compensation philosophy or methodology for administering pay to non-represented employees. In 2007, the village hired a consultant to complete a project very similar to what's being presented today. The goals of the original study, much like this one, were to, 1, establish a pay plan that is both internally equitable and externally competitive, and 2, address market conditions and inequities that developed in the absence of a formal pay philosophy and structure. The findings were presented in early 2008. It's my understanding that there was a wave or a phase of some adjustments, but that the full implementation was indefinitely placed on hold due to the recession. Unfortunately, the results of that study were never revisited. Interestingly, after developing the salary structure that I'm presenting today, I compared it back to the 2007 study, and I fast forwarded the rates of the 2007 study by the cost of living adjustments for all non-union. And for the most part, the market today, with the adjustments of cost of living over the last nearly 20 years, is exactly kind of on point. We're right where we should be. We're just looking to formalize the structure. Pay for non-represented employees was most recently addressed in 2024, where 15 positions were identified as materially below the competitive market. And this would be for non-union positions. Staff was directed to bring those positions closer to the comparable market over a 3-year period. Actually, it was about a 2-year period over 3 budget cycles, using the median of comparable salaries as the target rather than the full market range that we'll be presenting today. 2 of the 3 phased increases were implemented, representing about 75% of the total projected adjustment. In the fall of 2025, Manager Stewart and I had several discussions about those adjustments. While they made meaningful impact in improving market alignment and addressing a fairly urgent situation, there were also several flaws. First, the increases were not grounded in a logical target, being the median versus the mean of the range. Second, it did not lay out a long-term sustainable strategy to address pay administration in the closer short term and long term. What's being presented this evening is intended to address both of those issues. It's built on an objective framework grounded in consistent and logical metrics, and it's designed to provide a sustainable approach to compensation in the future. The first step in establishing the salary structure was updating the cohort, which is a group of communities that Carpentersville considers most comparable. For reference, this is the same cohort used to evaluate market pay in union settings. These communities identified are then used to benchmark compensation for substantially similar positions each community employs. The next step was collecting as much pay data as possible for each position. We gathered up-to-date salary ranges for each community in the cohort for positions that are substantially similar to ours, based on the job responsibility and required qualifications of each position. From there, 3 members of management conducted a point factor analysis, which is a structured way to evaluate the relative value of each position based on key factors. Each position was evaluated across 4 categories: skill, which would include knowledge, experience, and education required for each position, and the level of responsibility, demand, and working conditions, focusing on the requirements of the job itself, not the individual holding that position. The point factor analysis determined how positions were assigned into pay grades. In cases where a position didn't have a direct market comparison, roles were grouped based on comparable positions that did have market data, allowing for appropriate range placement. Market data was then overlaid into the grades, and the framework took shape. A benchmark was anchored, and fixed increments were applied both vertically between the pay grades and horizontally within the ranges. And just for reference, there's 2 packets in front of you. One, which is a little more rainbow, and one is all gray. The gray is the proposed salary schedule for non-union. The one with more color in it, I overlaid all of our union positions that have established ranges, just for reference and how they fit in to the compensation strategy as a whole. And so for reference, the grades on the left-hand side, let's look at the gray one, for example, 1 through 29. That's a classification unique for each position. There are several positions grouped into one grade. For example, we can look at grade number 5. There's 2 positions in there with 1 pay range. So we identified those as positions that had similar responsibilities or in qualifications. So very technically, each grade increases 4.25%, and the width of each pay range is 35%. The final step in evaluating evaluating current employee pay relative to the new schedule. So where our employees fall within these newly developed ranges. We had identified a small handful of employees whose pay fell outside of their position's assigned range. They were below the minimum that's being proposed. Though it's worth noting that without the 2024 and 2025 market adjustments, the number of outliers would have been significantly higher. So the salary structure has 29 pay grades. There's 1 additional grade you'll see at the top, just above grade 1. It's called no classification. This is to account for seasonal positions, internships, and other positions that might be hired at the minimum wage. Not every grade currently has a position assigned to it, and that's intentional. The structure is designed to provide flexibility as positions evolve and as organizational needs change over time. For example, the 2007 study included 15 positions that no longer exist in the same form today. So building in that flexibility will be important to the future viability and functionality of this salary schedule. The scatter plot shown up on the screen here illustrates where current employees fall within each grade. So the vertical axis is the pay grades. And the horizontal is basically where within each range an employee falls. So 0% represents the minimum, 100 represents the maximum. So we don't have any employees that would exceed the maximum of the proposed ranges, but we do have, there's 4 dots, but there's 2 overlapping. So there's 5 people in total below the 0% mark, which represents the minimum of the range. So all of the employees that are below the minimum have been hired within the last 3 years. And to address these outliers, staff is recommending a 2-phase approach to bring the employees at least to the minimum of the range for their position. The first phase, should the board support this initiative, would take effect immediately. And the initial adjustments would not exceed 10% of those employees' current base pay. So the total would be in this budget year for the remaining 2026 budget year would be roughly $16,000. And that would get those positions almost all the way to the minimum, but there would be approximately $6,000 of adjustments that we would look to make in terms of the base pay in the next budget year in 2027. Moving forward, a compensation philosophy is what will ensure that the structure stays viable over time. It provides the framework to keep pay administration up to date, equitable, and in alignment with the competitive market. Employees naturally progress through the pay range assigned for their position, which will happen in several ways, including cost of living adjustments, merit increases tied to performance, position and range adjustments, and broader market updates, all subject to the approved budget and administrative approval of the village manager. Just as important, the philosophy establishes guardrails for how and when pay administration decisions are made. It will help ensure that adjustments are not made on an ad hoc basis, but instead follow a consistent approach through budget planning and approval. Staff is looking for general direction from the board to move forward with implementation of the compensation philosophy and salary schedule. With that direction, the first phase of adjustments would be implemented for the 5 employees that are currently below the minimum of their position's respective grade. And from there, the schedule would be reviewed annually with a more comprehensive analysis every 3 to 5 years to capture any organizational changes. So with that,
Thank you. No need on board action tonight, obviously, but something that this board and the past, the rest of us for a few years have been looking at, moving forward. So thank you for getting that together for us.
I have a question.
Yes.
So on this chart, you have minimum. Is it like current and then proposed, or the
oh, I'm sorry, that's supposed to say mid. That's the midpoint.
mid in the center? Okay,
the
I was
midpoint.
confused with that. And then is that the same on the gray?
Yes,
Okay.
that empty column should be midpoint.
Trustee Garcia. You have a comment?
Yes, I do have a couple of questions. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Show 'em.
What's that? There's a number, but no position and a salary.
So those are essentially grades for positions that don't, those are grades with no position in it. We kept those in the salary structure intentionally, just for future evolution of positions.
So for example, a position could be created next year. We identify a need, say, for a particular position in Public Works. We may say that slots in at 17, for example, which currently doesn't have a classification, but that allows us to at least put it into a framework that it mathematically progresses between the position point or between the grades in a way that if we ever slotted somebody, we have that framework already built for that position.
How do I apply for 28?
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Comment?
No.
No. Okay, thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on, trustee committee reports, trustee Maniscalco.
I just have a couple of updates on special events. As we talked about, the Arbor Day event is going to be on April 27th at 10:20 in Carpenter Park. The students will receive a tree and a small goodie bag following a short presentation. And starting tomorrow, the village staff and the board members are invited to stop by Public Works to vote on the coloring contest, because that'll be part of it as well. And you already talked about Cinco de Mayo. And as always, if anyone's interested in volunteering, we're always looking for volunteers in special events. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Frost,
I have no report tonight.
trustee Gupta.
Well, first of all, excellent work on the CCOM. The entire discussion and the path forward. I'm absolutely looking forward to how we pay back to the community with the savings and everything. But good job, excellent work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Abbott, thank
I
you.
just want to say, thanks a lot, Carrie. This is great for all the info. And I'm really excited about the Businger Drive Village Hall in the front. It's going to look really great again with a nice new street amongst all the other good, projects around Carpentersville. So it's really cool. Everything's going on good. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Malone,
No report this evening.
trustee Garcia.
Yes, I attended the Jet and Quadcom meeting last week. We talked already about it on item B on new items. And it's very interesting, and I'm glad to be part of this restructuration of our spending. Very important, very interesting. And next Monday, we'll be attending Audit and Finance. I'll bring a report.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to echo what you guys said, and thank you to everybody, Carrie and HR and staff again, of course, for getting that done. We did have a fire on Friday, and one of our well-known resident in our town. He's been living here his whole life, and he just opened a pizza place on Route 68, BG Pizzeria. So he had a bad fire at his house, and he's out of his house for about a year right now. And his grandmother lived there, and she was 99. She's going to be 100 in June.
Wow.
So it's kind of a big deal for them, but now they're displaced. So it's it's sad actually. Don't know what happened. The garage started in the garage, I guess. So we'll find out more when the report comes back for the insurance investigators. But yeah, so anything you can do. They're members of St. Monica's for many, many years. And Yoshi used to be the manager at Village Pizza for about 30 years almost. And then he moved and started his own business. So it's kind of cool. Hometown kid doing well. And now he has a tragedy, but it's all going to be good. So, but yeah, I just wanted to bring that up. Good job by police and fire, of course. Actually, our first arriving police officer has it on his body cam, which is helping a lot with our investigation for the fire department, the insurance company, so they can see, what the heck was going on before the firemen got there. So, and took out power to a lady next door, and it was a big fire. So, but everybody's okay. Nobody got hurt, right? That's the bottom line. So thank God. And with that being said, we have no closed session tonight,
No, sir.
correct? Any other business, anybody?
President
Got
Skillman,
there?
do we have a list or a place we could drop off anything that they might need for the fire?
Yeah, he hasn't gotten back to me yet on that, if he wants, what he wants to do. I don't know if they were starting to GoFundMe.
I believe I saw one.
Okay,
I don't know that.
so there should be a GoFundMe started
Search
for them, which is needed. Yeah, so we can follow up with that, maybe get it out.
Pizza. If I may add, let's go buy pizza.
Yeah. if
Visit
you-
his place.
Support the business, right?
Yeah.
Everybody, if possible, please do. great pizzas and, okay. With that being said, motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
I'll second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Brad?